It is Sunday, December 22nd, 2024, and on this week's edition of Sunday Sofa Time, we're talking about some new information important to people planning to cruise to Mexico and if I would cruise to Mexico again. Oh my gosh, it's almost Christmas. Are you ready? Because of so many things that have happened here in the last, I want to say 30 days. I'm actually kind of not ready. I'm very behind, and I feel a sense of impending doom that some people are not going to get the things that they expect from me by Christmas. But Christmas is very often a stressful time for everybody, and I'm trying to just sort of go with the flow. I'm Morgan from the very unofficial travel guides. I've been making travel videos for over 15 years of popular and not so popular tourist destinations to give you a very honest, unofficial look at what it's like to be there. And one of the exciting things that have happened to me in the last 30 days is my new book, Places Please, has been released. This is over 200 pages of stories about my life working as a musical theater performer around the world, and also a travel guide with tips about visiting Miami, how to ride the tube in London, where are the best restaurants in New York, what it's like to work in a circus. Pick up a copy. It's available as a paperback or digitally on Amazon now. I'm just going to continue with a quick other couple updates before we get to the cruise to Mexico part. For one, I was not the first person to actually see this book. It took over a week for my copies to get delivered, and then when they showed up, somebody had opened the box. I don't know if it was a delivery person or somebody here in my building, but the box was opened, but whoever it was not interested because they left everything inside. What does that say about the book? Also, I talked about this a couple weeks ago that I currently don't have a passport, but that has also changed because my passport came in less than 2 weeks, and I think that is a world record as far as my experiences go. I still have one more step I have to do before I can start traveling internationally again, and that is I have to renew my German Niederlassungserlaubnis, which is like my green card to stay here and work here. And I'm hoping that that means by the end of January I will have a next adventure. Watch this space. You know I will tell you all about it as soon as it gets planned. Now let's talk about Mexico. My most recent cruise was on the Norwegian Bliss out of Los Angeles. We stopped in Cabo San Lucas, Mazatlan, and Puerto Vallarta. If you're up to date here on the channel, you have seen a couple videos from that cruise, and there are still more coming, so check back soon. I wouldn't say I'm an expert for Mexico cruises, but who is really? And how can you officially earn that title, I wonder? But so I'm basing my experiences about cruising to Mexico on those two cruises, and I think many of you would agree that even being on a less than averagely good cruise is usually better than being at home, no matter where the destination is. But there are some factors to consider that I know make cruising to Mexico for some people attractive, but then also some that make it less than attractive. And I'm gonna try to kind of focus on both of those quickly. So let's start with the things that make Mexico less than attractive. And I'm just realizing one of these things belongs on both lists, and that is the heat. Many Mexican ports are in areas where the temperature on the average is warmer than it is in other places. And especially if you're cruising there in the summer months, it's going to be hot. This is a plus and minus. Some people love baking out in the sun. Marcus and I enjoy that kind of weather because here living in Northern Europe doesn't usually get that warm, not that crazy warm and humid in the summer. And so in a way, it's fun to us to experience this, even though it's uncomfortable for us too, but it's fun to be like,
this is so hot, let's try to remember what this is like in January.
But I know some people, some of you out there, some of my friends have a really hard time when the heat is above a certain number, and especially if the humidity is up there too. So that might be a reason why you wouldn't be interested in cruising to Mexico, or especially wouldn't be interested in cruising to Mexico during certain months. So that's the point that I think some people will say that's a reason to go to Mexico, and some people will say that's a reason to not go to Mexico. The next point I want to talk about that is kind of a reason to not go to Mexico is that many areas of the country of Mexico, including the areas around some popular cruise ports, are considered to be extremely dangerous no-travel zones. I talked about this in my travel vlog about Mazatlan that I just posted on Friday, that the entire Mexican state of Sinaloa is considered by the US Embassy in Mexico to be a no travel zone. People should not travel there except for the tiny little speck on the map that is Mazatlan. They say, that's good. If you stay there, you're good, but don't go anywhere else. You're gonna get kidnapped, you're gonna get robbed, you're gonna get carjacked. And honestly, that doesn't sound like a fun vacation to me, so I don't know what you're into, but I'm gonna have to pass on getting carjacked. Now, of course, that doesn't mean it happens to everybody. It doesn't mean it happens every day, but apparently it happens enough that there are warnings about it and the recommendation to not travel there at all at any time. However, the cruise ports themselves have measures in place to make it as safe and accommodating for tourists as possible. And no place that we went in Mazatlan or Cabo San Lucas or Puerto Vallarta felt unsafe to us. I'm not saying that doesn't mean bad things don't happen there, but I'm just saying from my impression, I never felt like anything was sketchy or my spidey sense started tingling because I thought something bad is gonna happen very soon here, we better turn around. But there's something coming up that's brand new that I know a lot of people on the cruise internet have been discussing, and that is this new fee for all cruise passengers coming to Mexico. Port fees to visit certain ports are nothing new. If you look here at the Royal Caribbean website and the Carnival website, you can see there are taxes and fees automatically added to the price of your cruise, and these are things that can go up and down. And so a cruise port or a country having a fee to visit it, that's not new. It's just sort of hidden, and I guess most people don't think about it. But the Mexican government has decided that they want to reclassify cruise passengers. Let me back up. According to the way I understand it, cruise passengers in the past did not have to pay for basically a visa because they were considered in transit. But the Mexican government has decided that starting in 2026, all cruise passengers are going to have to pay for a daily visa, and that's going to go up to, I think it was $42 a person. So that is a significant hike in what it will cost to visit Mexico, and they're also saying that the ships are going to have to pay this for every passenger, whether or not this passenger actually leaves the ship and goes on land or not. So it's not like there's going to be, a booth down on the pier, and in order to leave the pier and go into the city, you're going to have to pay somebody $42. The cruise line is just going to get charged for all the passengers on board, and I think it's probably a safe bet to assume that the cruise line is not going to pay for you to do that. They're going to add that onto your bill. Yeah, so this has of course been a topic of discussion, and especially people who have already booked a cruise in 2026, which is something that constantly puzzles me. I can't imagine planning my life 2 years in advance. That's just not something that brings me joy or that I appreciate doing, and that doesn't mean that I'm criticizing the people who do it. It's just something that I don't know how you do that. Anyway, so if you have already booked a cruise to Mexico in 2026, then that you have to ask yourself the question, okay, when am I going to get hit with this fee now? And how is the cruise line going to make me pay for that since I've already paid for my cruise? Interesting question. How's that going to work? And for everybody else, I just think, okay, yeah, it's just gonna be added to the bill. It's gonna be hidden under these taxes and fees, and I think most people probably honestly won't really think about it. And if people are up in arms about cruises to Mexico becoming more expensive, the one thing that I can say to sort of justify this, according to my experience, is everything in Mexico is already so inexpensive that I honestly don't mind if I have to pay $42 more to visit than I did last time, because I know when I go on land, I'm gonna be spending way less money than I would if I was like visiting some port in the Mediterranean, and especially Miami Beach. So personally, I guess I don't really mind. If you watch last Friday's vlog from Mazatlan, you'll see we went out and had this amazing lunch. Both had appetizers, both had main courses, both had 2 alcoholic drinks, and the bill was not even $50, including tip. And then they even gave us a souvenir menu to take home with us. I don't know what the port fee is for Miami Beach, and I haven't read anything about it changing or going up in the future, but if you go to Miami Beach and go to a Mexican restaurant and order 2 appetizers, 2 main courses, and 4 alcoholic drinks, it's probably gonna be close to $100, and they're gonna automatically add 20% tip to it. Why complain about a fee being added to visit a place where everything is relatively inexpensive? Nobody complains about whatever the fee is to visit Miami, and then you go on land there and pay like 3 times as much as you would any place else in the country. Why don't we talk about that? To sum it up, I think you know my thoughts about this already. I would have no problem cruising to Mexico again. Be really looking forward to going back to Puerto Vallarta, because not only did I find it just great there, but very close by, they're building a Cirque du Soleil theme park, and that is something that I definitely have time for. And now, back by popular demand, comes the time on Sunday Sofa Time where I comment on your comments live on air. On my most recent video, Is Cruising to Mazatlan Dangerous? Karen Hill asked the question, do you ever get any of the local currency to use while you're in port? I haven't yet, but keep feeling like I should. This is a good question, and the answer is I usually don't anymore, because nowadays you can pay with your credit card everywhere, and that's just so much easier than getting foreign currency that you know you're not going to use all of, and then having, you know, like 100 Mexican pesos sitting around until the next time you go to Mexico. And if we're speaking about Mexico specifically, every port in Mexico will accept US dollars. So if you're coming from the US, or if you have US dollars from some other trip, that's fine. The only times that I wish I did have some like bills or coins from the local currency is when I want to tip somebody, or especially if you're out and about and want to use like a public bathroom. You almost always have to pay for those in places like Mexico, the Caribbean, especially in Europe. And if you don't have any local currency, that's complicated. Next comment was on my video comparing Royal Caribbean to NCL. It's from Sue Leliver. Sue writes, no judgment, just a question. Are you drinking chocolate milk in Coke? No, it's not Coke, it's coffee. In the video, I show myself pouring chocolate milk into a cup of coffee to make myself a mocha. But I can understand how Sue thought it might be cola, because it's in like a tall, like a water glass that you can see through. And of course, that's not usually the thing that you use to drink coffee, but because I like to mix a coffee with the chocolate milk to make a mocha, then I put it in a big glass. And the final comment is from Summer B, who was one of the first people to read the entire new book. And I'm just gonna go through this now to give you an impression of what somebody thought of it. My highlights were the backstage stories and the look behind the scenes, how hard this business could be. I love theater and musicals, and I also waited at the stage door, so I love to see the other side and get to know how the business works. What surprised me were your really personal stories, including a special woman friendship, wink wink. You made your audience feel like a good friend you talk to, not afraid to show feelings and failures in such a great way. And I love the Letterman story. I immediately watched it on YouTube. Yeah, so just to interject there, I got pranked by David Letterman, and it almost made me lose my job. I'm not going to tell you any more details about it. Read the book. That made me laugh, besides a lot of other funny moments. And I hope you'll get to know the story of meeting the love of your life in part 2. Honestly, I can't wait. Thank you so much for writing that. That feedback just makes me feel so good about finally finishing this project, and to know that the time you spent sitting down reading it brought joy to you and made you think and reflect and laugh, of course. And to all the people out there now who have already ordered and perhaps already read through the book, you can do me a huge favor by taking 2 minutes and just go and write any kind of review on Amazon. And the best reviews are the ones that would give a potential reader an idea of what they can expect inside the book. Of course, I appreciate any review. It's all helpful. A lot of the reviews on getting stitches were more kind of like personal greetings to me, which I love to read as well, but that doesn't really help somebody who might be considering buying it decide if they want to get it or not. You know what I mean? So the next time I sit down here on the red sofa, it's going to be past Christmas. I hope you all have a happy holiday season. Try not to be too stressed. Remember the things that are really important, and it's not how much money you spend on someone, unless of course, you know, the money is spent on a cruise or a trip to Disney World. I'm kidding, am I? Thanks so much for spending this part of your Sunday or whatever day it is you watch this with me, and I'm just really happy that you've been here this year all together. I'm Morgan from the Very Unofficial Travel Guides, and I hope to see you back here soon. Bye-bye.